Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Debra Eckerling, creator of the Deb Method for Goal Setting Simplified. I'm also the author of your Goal Guide and 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. You can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. So every week I bring together some of my people to dive into the conversation. And today we're talking about navigating chaos. So raise your hand if you have experienced or plan to experience chaos in your life. If you're not raising your hand right now, you're probably not being very truthful. But if you don't want to raise your hand, maybe you're like cooking or eating lunch or whatever, that's fine. We see you. Anyway, I have got a great panel today, and you may be watching us live as GoalChat Live. You might be watching the replay. You could be listening to us as the GoalChat podcast on the Marketing Podcast Network. No matter how you found us, we are so glad you're here. I'm really excited. So today's panel, we have John Couch, and I think you're going to be my favorite story of at least the season, because John's wife and I met in line at jury duty, and we were chatting. And I said, let's do the thing where we check and see who we have in common on LinkedIn. And she said, I don't do LinkedIn, but try my husband. And we had like 25 people in common. So anyway, thank you, Sage. We are very glad you made that connection. Deb Krier, I met through Jeanette Sibley, who was recently on GoalChat. And she made a lovely little match, because I will be on Deb Krier's Business Power Hours sometime in August. And Michele Risa, who's one of my Innovation Women friends. And that is like, Innovation Women is a self-service speakers platform, and is a really good, did I tell you about it, Deb? If I didn't, remind me. But it's a way to get women on more stages. No offense, John. The whole point being, in the topic of chaos, I think, is a very important one. Because even in the calmest of times, there's some goofiness going on. And before we jump on in, though, I would love for my guests to introduce themselves better, because right now, all you know is I like these people, which I think is really an important attribute to have for your guests. But John, please share who you are, why you're here, and why the topic of chaos really speaks to you.
Well, hi, I'm John, and I've had a long career in technology and design, starting way back in the day at Wired magazine, and moving all the way through working in LA at CBS, and then I worked at Qualcomm, and I worked at MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art, multiple leadership jobs in creativity and design. Ultimately, my last big, full-time, job was at Hulu, where I led the redesign of Hulu, the platform, from 2016 to about 2021. And then I decided to become a consultant. So I've been consulting with multiple companies, ranging from e-commerce companies all the way up to, most recently, Amazon Prime Video. And I'm also the author of the book that you see there, The Art of Creative Rebellion, which was a book that I wrote as a way to help people and guide them through the corporate environment while maintaining their creative spark. So that's me.
And if you don't have, I hate to talk in negatives, but if you don't have your spark, what are you doing, right? And so Sage and I started talking, and I gave her a copy of my book, and I think that was why she was like, oh yeah, you and John definitely of the mindset of, really leaning into doing the things to make your life better and the lives of people around you better. So excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Deb, welcome. Great to see you.
Well, good to see you. Good to see you. So for the purposes of this podcast, I'll be Deb number 2. As Deb mentioned, we met because she was a guest on my podcast, The Business Power Hour. Her episode will go live August 18th, and I have done over 1,000 podcast episodes. So that is, so much fun. I get to talk with the coolest people in the world. I also have my own marketing and PR agency called Wise Women Communications. Started it when I was just a wee young pup, because it's over 20 years ago, and y'all can stop snickering. But yeah, I have a great time doing that. you do you want me to say what my chaos is, or are we going to get into that later?
I think we'll get into chaos later, but were you so excited to jump into a conversation about chaos?
Because chaos is every day of my life, and quite frankly always has been. I'm just kind of one of those people that chaos comes around, but I have great fun with it and learn from it, and to me it kind of gets my creative juices going. But yeah, there's good and there's bad chaos, right?
There's good and there's bad everything, chaos notwithstanding. Well, thrilled that you're here. Michele, great to see you. Who are you and why talk about chaos?
Right. Well, I'll be a rebel and say I do experience chaos. Not in here, maybe out there. I see it. I certainly take it in terms of, this is what's going on. And yet I feel my life has really been about observing that and choosing how to respond. So maybe it is what Deb just said, or Deb number 2, excuse me, just said. But it all of my work has been about helping people connect to who they are, get agency, recognize the triggers, if you will. And for me, the ultimate freedom is choice, right? And help them understand that they have choice and how they respond to whatever is going on around them. Briefly about me is I started in the 90s when Yeltsin was privatizing as a prior Russian president. And he was indiscriminately firing women, saying, go back to the kitchen. And I and others went to Moscow and St. Petersburg and said, they can't. They have families to support. And so we set up business incubators. Fast forward, the past couple of years, I've been in the MENA region, Middle East, North Africa, offering programs for would-be entrepreneurs or people who just want job readiness skills and helping them, again, with a hand up and to go in a direction that's, again, most meaningful to them, starting from the inside out. And finally, now I'm launching programs across universities worldwide, stimulated by the debacle at Columbia. I went there for graduate school and have been doing, how to bridge gaps and divisiveness for a long time. And so now helping students within universities connect again and answer the age-old question, who am I, why am I here, and how they can connect to each other, support each other, and truly be an evolutionary leader and redefine leadership as a result. So that's me.
So the opposite of chaos is calm.
Mm-hmm.
And with some of these panels, I'm trying to think about how they came together. And I'm pretty sure that that's why we brought you into. You get to be the counterbalance, I guess, for everybody else.
Oh, thank you.
But I really feel like the important part of chaos, or really anything, because I'm all about when you embrace change by choice or by circumstance, then you have whatever playing field you decide to create. So I feel like you can see what's going on in the world and then really own yourself as you walk into it. That is my take. But before we dive into your chaos stories, I would love for you each to define chaos. So John, what is your definition of chaos?
It's disruption. And I think it's disruption that is not always constructive, but it's something that we all deal with on a daily basis. And, there's disruption, like when the internet came out and it disrupted things. I wouldn't call it chaos, but it would do is cause a chaotic feeling in people, because I think that chaos for me is an internalization of an emotional state that comes out of dealing with change. And if you can change your narrative on what you're seeing from being one of like, I can't control this, to one of like, I can actually have self-control, and then look at the situation not from a negative lens of like, oh, everything's changing, but like, oh, everything's changing. It's the same words, but a different emphasis. So, for my world, a lot's changing, let's say just technologically, leaving out climate change and political strife and everything else. But if you just break it down to like the introduction of AI and the rise of it over the last few years, that has some resonance to me of when the internet suddenly became a thing back in the 90s. The difference is that the internet was a little bit of a slower roll in getting onto it and its effect on people, whereas I think AI, whether people realize it or not, whether they think it's hyped or not, is having a massive societal and technological change in a very compressed amount of time. So to me, I don't think it's chaos necessarily, but it's definitely a form of disruption that we're all going to have to learn to deal with on some level.
Going back to embracing change, right?
Yes. And the way that I deal with it is I think of everything from a creative perspective. So the problem is when you have something that is new and different, you can look at it as something that you shy away from. And that usually is a compression of the thinking down to a state of survival. And when you're in a state of survival, you're not expansively thinking at all. You're just thinking about like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, versus like, oh, this could be really interesting. How might I look at this from a positive perspective? How can I creatively engage with what this is doing to myself and my work and my environment? And I think once you do that, you have to get there, and this is probably something Michele could speak to better, but you have to calm yourself immediately. You have to bring your nervous system down from a fight or flight state into one of, box breathing or meditation or whatever you need to do in order to get into a state that's open so you can actually find solutions, with a situation versus thinking, oh no, I'm screwed. So the immediate reaction, I think, for most people with chaos or change is that, which is fine. You can't control that. That's just going to be a normal reaction that you have. The question is whether you act on that or you just let it kind of flow through you and then you step back and see the bigger picture. You don't deny the feeling, but you kind of go, okay, that's happening. I'm feeling anxiety. But once that kind of takes its path, what's the next step in terms of being constructive creatively and looking at the opportunity in the situation versus the downside?
I love it. Well, I'm all about the positive spin. And when you approach something, knowing it will be okay, it is going to change immensely how you react to it. And so, Michele, as John just name checked you, what is your definition of chaos and your immediate take of the counterbalance to it?
I think both the positive and negative are both sides to the same coin all the time. Mm-hmm. When I look at anything in my life, I can always find both, always. And I've worked on that actually, because in the past it would be more negative, and society has played a role in that. However, truly, and I know Deb too knows cancer really well. I've been blessed. I have had it as well, and I very deliberately say have been blessed. And why would I even say that? Because it enabled me to find the preciousness of life. Hey, what gift could be better than that, in my opinion? So you're just getting my opinion, of course. And so I really, when I teach, that's what I offer. And we really use neuroplasticity, right? That lovely rewiring that we can, go from, oh my God, as John was saying earlier, to pause, right? And use whatever you want to use to pause and say, is there something else here that I may not be seeing? And certainly when I had cancer, I asked that question quite frequently. What else is here, right? And so I don't want to take too much time. I want Deb to get it, Deb too, to get in here on it. But is that's, so I'm sorry, I have one other part of chaos. I also teach the unknown. I mean, we all talking about AI and innovation. Well, how do we innovate something new if we already know it? We can't know something and it can't already exist if we're innovating. So the very nature of us, is of being able to deal with innovation is to embrace the unknown and transformation. And so I think, again, that we all can do. We are amazingly powerful beings, and we truly can change perspective, and we certainly can give ourselves choice and just literally create the quality of our lives. So, yes, so that's why I was a rebel and said, I don't feel I lived. And certainly I've lived, Deb 1, in a chaotic world, and a very, I would say, quite painful, unhappy world. I don't think I'm alone in that. And yeah, the good news is the pain was so great that I made a commitment to say enough. There's got to be a better way, and I'm hoping I pass that on as best I can.
And it's chaos and stress is a choice, just as the choice not to have chaos and stress is a choice. Yeah. I want to give a quick shout out to Josh Tover, who's watching us live, who wrote, we all have 1,440 minutes daily, and they are true gifts. Yes, time is a blessing. Goals are gifts as well. And things can't always be perfect, but the more positive you go into your day, the more likely your day will come out in a satisfactory whatever. Anyway, in a satisfactory whatever. That would be the technical term. Deb, what is your definition of chaos?
Well, first of all, I love what John and Michele have been saying. And I won't just say ditto, because, we do want to have a discussion, right? But to me, chaos is kind of something that's unplanned. Obviously the COVID shutdown caused a lot of chaos. AI, as John mentioned, is causing total chaos. But it is how we react to it that is what's going to happen. Are we going to be reactive or proactive? And, proactive sometimes means that you have planned for things in advance. And we can certainly do some of that with a lot of these things, just by some basic steps and things that we are taking. But to me, it's also kind of a challenge when it's the world that's in chaos or ourselves, and I think, Michele obviously understands this, that when it's our bodies that are kind of going, hello, we're going to cause problems, we have to deal with it very differently. And I totally agree that, having cancer is something that it sucks, right? But I've met some of the best people in the world. I have, there have been so many good things that have come out of it that, would I go back and not have it? I don't know. I mean, that's kind of an interesting question, right? That I ask myself, because there are things that I'm like, but there were so many good things that came from it. So it's how we react, how we choose, exactly what Debra said, how we are choosing to deal with that chaos. And sometimes we just let it flow all the way around us. But yeah, and I love what Josh just put in there, that social media is chaos, and holy schmoly, isn't it really? But it provides joy. And when it's not providing joy, folks, you can scroll past it.
Wait. You mean you do not need to get sucked into the doom scroll?
I know, no doom scrolling. I think one of the things that's so fun about social media is the connections that we make with people, right? And we are and that can be considered chaotic, right? There's all these voices, there's all of those things, but then we again can pick and choose who we're going to interact with and who we're not going to click like, who and who we're going to unfollow, right? But yeah, it's how are we going to deal with the chaos? Because the world is going to go on doing whatever the world is going to do. How are we going to deal with it?
What I have been saying a lot of lately, because I talk about goal setting and goal getting in challenging times, it's we have control over so little outside of us. But when we remember that we have control over ourselves, our actions, our goals, our future, it makes the crazy, I think, a little bit more palatable.
Right.
Because we don't have to get sucked into that tsunami
Yes.
Right. And I'm going to do a pitch for Debra. Now, granted, I did just interview her for my podcast, so I know a lot about what she does. But having goals helps us get through that chaos. Because, even if we weren't planning for that chaos, we still should have been having goals. So that's kind of that reactive or proactive.
Well, I agree. And also to think about, your goal guide came out in January 2020. So 6 weeks, exactly 6 weeks before the world had changed by choice or circumstance, which was what my purpose from the book was, to help people embrace that. And then we all got, changed by circumstance. And John, didn't you have,
Yes.
don't you have your own pandemic book release story?
My book came out exactly 1 month before the pandemic. So I had exactly one book reading downtown at the last bookstore in Los Angeles. And it was great, that one time. And then 2 weeks later, we were all shut down. But what I found was interesting is that the book actually did pretty well during the pandemic because people were staying home and reading or watching TV. And I did, I don't know, like 40 webinars, like in multiple podcasts, and it turned out to be a good thing in the end. So I was very happy about that. But to your point regarding goals, I think it's important to have purpose-driven, ostentatious goals for yourself. But what I've learned is that you can't rely on the goals to be happy. Like if my tendency was to think, well, if I achieve this goal, then I'll be happy. But in reality, I realize I have to be happy now, no matter what's going on. And then the goal is motivating me on the long term. So I'm very much a believer in goals, so I want to make sure that's clear. But what I had to learn is that my current situation can't be predicated on one day when I have, fill in the blank, that car, that house, that job, that I'll be happy. And what I have found counterintuitively, if I'm happy in my circumstances right now, no matter what, it tends to help me get to that goal versus being miserable. Because when I'm miserable, I'm usually not present, which means that I'm not thinking and being here. I'm worried about the future and I'm regretting the past. And the only reality we really have is literally this moment.
Right.
So everything else is an illusion. So the pandemic taught me in a lot of life situations was that the theme for my work and my artwork and my design work and my writing is impermanence. And it's kind of going back to what Michele was saying, and what Deb and Michele both experienced firsthand, is that we have this incredible opportunity every day to engage with something that is just an amazing gift, and we forget about that. And especially when you're younger, you just take it for granted. You're going to wake up tomorrow and it's going to be fine. But I've known a lot of young people who died early, just car accident or what have you. So that's never a given. But I think that's interesting about death, and especially in the Western world, is that we fear it versus looking at it as a positive motivation, like the Greeks did, for memento mori, that be here now, or Ram Dass, exist in this moment. So that's been helpful for me, is to kind of combine the things that you write about, Debra, in your book, but then combining that with trying to be as present as I can in this moment.
I love that. And you're right. It is a little bit counterintuitive, right? Because you're working toward the future, but you have to be present now. My yes and to that is you still, whether your goal is not joy, and maybe your goal is joy, but if you look for the joy within your goals, that's going to keep you motivated to move forward, even when there's so much you can't control.
Totally.
Okay, I'm seeing some nodding. Michele, you've been a little quiet. What are your thoughts of goals in the role of life planning and avoiding or dealing with chaos?
Well, let me think about that, though I'm okay with silence as well.
She's calm.
I'll go. Thank God. Yes. Thank you, God. I will agree that there is no point in worrying about the future or regretting the past. That in this moment, in this literal moment, we are all creating our lives, and that's all we have. right? So, I mean, if we just can agree on that alone, even though, again, our brain or mind does take us elsewhere, again, that's neuroplasticity. We have the opportunity that when it has us worrying about the future or regretting the past, that's again the choice we have. Okay, I hear, and I respect all my voices and my feelings. I think being kind and compassionate is key. And
Mhm.
then again, what is it that I would like to create in this moment,
Mhm.
which is best for me? What
Mhm.
is, and that's a learning, that's an ongoing learning. So I may create goals, Deborah, to answer you about goals that I thought were beneficial. And the only way I can know is in the moment, right? Create them and see, and to the extent that I can get rid of my, distortions or old conditioning or what other people would want or what other people would, acknowledge or honor, right? Again, comes back to my own inner ecosystem and say, what's true for
Mhm.
me?
Right.
Why am I
Mhm.
here, et cetera. So coming back to this soul that I have and has chosen to go on this journey is where I get a lot of my direction and guidance. And and when
Mhm.
when I realize and I do my best to observe as clearly as I can, I like everyone else. That didn't work. I change
Let's
it.
try something new.
Mhm. Mhm.
I learn from it. Amen. I mean,
Mhm.
my goodness, it's the best school on the planet. Yeah, I learned from it and, apply it. So
Right.
that's, rinse
Mhm.
and repeat.
Mhm.
So life is a series of trial and error,
Mhm. Right.
which is, the ethos of 52 Secrets,
Mhm.
see what works for other people,
Mhm.
take them for a ride,
Mhm.
do more of what works and
Right.
eliminate everything
Mhm.
else. Deb,
I'll just say though, when we're really connected to our hearts and who we authentically are, when we get that, and I didn't have it for
right?
much of my life, I'll just say it's a different quality of life. It's
Mhm.
not just chaotic, not just random, right? I feel guided more often because I'm connected more deeply to who I truly am. And again,
Hmm.
others may not agree with what my choices are, but nevertheless, for me, it is the best life I can live.
Mhm. Mhm. Right.
Okay, Deb, I'm seeing a lot of nodding. The other thing that people who are listening can't see is that you and Michelle's body language is almost identical.
We're just nodding and agreeing.
No,
Yeah.
and doing the things with your fingers
Yes, our fingers. Yes,
simultaneously.
yes. You know, as we were talking, one of the things I was thinking is, our goals, our plans, whatever they are not written in stone. And I think where we have a problem is when we make them written in stone, that's where the chaos happens, right? It's about choosing, it's about being flexible, it's about going, that didn't work. Learn from it, like we've been saying. Hopefully not repeat it if it didn't work, but sometimes we do have to go through things a couple of times before they get through our really hard heads. But yeah, they're not written in stone. And I tell people the only thing that I want that's written in stone is on my headstone. I don't want it to say, I wish I would have.
Yep.
That's a good goal. I don't know why I'm surprised that a conversation on chaos is so existential, but maybe I'm a little, but maybe not. John, do you have a personal chaos story? I know Deb does, but I
You
want
mean
to.
on a professional or personal level, or
Yes.
like, yeah. I mean, the most recent one I would imagine was the fact that we live in Topanga Canyon, and we're between the Palisades and Malibu, and the fires in January. Talk about chaos. Out of nowhere, 100-mile-per-hour gale force winds were blowing through, and we have a generator running on propane because we're out in the country. But being here and seeing the fires from the mountaintop, starting to get closer and closer to us, and my wife and daughter and I had to evacuate for 16 days. And we we're very fortunate. We have friends who were very kind and gave us a house that they had to stay in. But on the second day, after the gale force winds, we got back to our house to actually then try to get all of the leaves and branches and everything away from the house, and very, kind of had this idealistic idea of watering down the house with, water, which was evaporating as soon as it got onto the house. So the point is that chaos, we were evacuated and we had ring cameras. We were watching from afar, the fires getting closer and closer. And when we had come here to clear out all the brush, we could see on the mountain, like right in front of us at night, inflamed, like in this inferno heading toward us. So we had to evacuate, obviously, get to the house, and through our phones, we were watching the ring cameras, and the ring cameras were showing the fires right on the street. So at that point, there was just a complete kind of giving in to not resisting the reality that we were going to lose everything potentially, but not being attached to either outcome. Like I think if we're attached to ourselves too much, like, oh, we're going to lose everything, it's in some weird way energetically almost brings that into reality in a different way than if we're like, I don't know, and so we kind of just kept it in a neutral state. And then the fires were getting closer, then the cameras went out because the propane ran out. So we didn't know. And luckily we had TV on, and we saw Anderson Cooper on CNN, and he was literally broadcasting from like up next door, just down the street, which I think brought in the Foscheck and the helicopters, and they were able to dump it because they're really good TV that way. So we were very lucky that Anderson Cooper probably helped save our house because it made for good television. But the point is that there was a sense of impermanence again, of like having to give in and appreciating so much more what we did have. Because even when we were in our evacuated house, our friend's house, we had to evacuate from there too, because it was in Woodland Hills and a fire broke out near there. So it was kind of running from pillar to post. And I think we're just now, 6 months later or so, still integrating that experience, because there's definitely like a very strong fight or flight sensibility. Then you kind of move, but what it does is it kind of clears your system out to being really present in the moment. Because the idea of like anything can go up in smoke is, theoretical until you actually experience it, and you drive on PCH and you see all those houses gone, and you see the Palisades is completely wiped out, and Altadena is wiped out. So maybe it is getting a little existential, but it's a very kind of upward, happy existential, because it's such a great lesson on the fragility of everything right now. And so that's chaos.
And your house ended up still standing.
Yes, I'm literally here at my house. Thank you. We're just an incredible situation where there's like a U shape of burnt houses around the perimeter of our house, and we were very fortunate that we didn't have no burn whatsoever.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, and I am in West LA, so close enough to the Palisades that I was like one quadrant away from the warning area. Yeah. So, but I worked in the Palisades for many years when I first moved to LA and knew people. And I was just there in November thinking, wow, the Palisades is gorgeous. I need to hang out here more often.
Yeah. And
that's just kind of mind blowing, but also, as you said, symbolic. Now you see it, now you don't. It's kind of like life-ish. Okay, yeah. Now you're contagious.
Well, the ultimate symbolism is, when you go on a hiking trail, you see these burnt trees covered with green growth. Like all the mountain went from being brown and black to now it's completely green. So metaphorically, there was a clearing, so to speak, but now there's this incredible explosion of growth. So I think that can be taken to us as well on many levels.
So I'd like to jump in and be even a little more existential, if that's okay.
Why not?
Thank you.
We're already down that path.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, thank you for the literal visual, John, of burnt and green coming. And so when I look even at the chaos around the world, which I think we're agreeing exists, right?
Yeah.
And I am a Socratic person who, I love Socrates. Why? Ask lots of questions. I try to be 3 years old. I think they ask 297 questions a day, but I don't know that I get there. And so why is all this happening? And I think the metaphor here with the fire is, what has existed hasn't really been working very well for many people. That's the way I'll answer it. And, it's time that we truly have transformative life in many aspects. We just can't keep building on what has pre-existed. It doesn't work. And so as painful as the fire is, as painful as chaos is, sometimes we just truly need to, right? I'll say it in a more positive way, go from the caterpillar to the butterfly, right? It's truly not just change around the edges, right? It's not just moving the furniture or painting the walls. It's not change like that, but it's truly a transformative time. I believe in the universe, right? And so, yes, the more we even take on John's attitude of, all right, let me be neutral here. It's happening. I clearly see the fire coming. I see the chaos. I see the changes. I see the pain, and I'm not negating. Please don't misunderstand me, even though I see it. I viscerally feel the pain of my human family deeply. So let me see it, and again, take a step back, and then ask, sir, let me serve. How can I best serve the situation? And that's where I get my calm, right? To then have the opportunity to say, use me. What can I do in any way, shape, or form to help? So I think the universe is going through a very chaotic time. And the more
You
we
think?
stop resisting.
You think?
I do.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that the fires were 6 months ago. It seems like a lot longer because there's been so much between now and then, right?
Right.
But
I just want to again say, and the green is there. I didn't know that.
the green,
And the
yes.
same will happen as a result of this art. Right. I mean, I know people are doubting it, right? And the gloom and doom is easy. It's easy to be there. I got it. But I'm hoping that from this conversation, there may be others who say, maybe like the fire, we too need to go through this painful time, and new will sprout very, very differently. Deb too.
I lived in Colorado for most of my life, and up in the Rocky Mountains, way up in the mountains, and worked for the Forest Service. And one of the things that we knew was that the only way pine cones open, so where the seeds are, is fire. And so if you want the new growth, there has to be fire. And it's exactly like John was saying. It was always so incredible to go through these burned areas, and kind of at one level, you have this black destruction, and then you have this new growth. And it's amazing how fast that new growth comes. Mother Nature, whatever we want to call it, it goes, it cycles really pretty fast. But yeah, you in many ways, you have to have the metaphorical fires before we can grow and move on.
Well, isn't there a whole phoenix rising from the ashes sort of thingamajig?
Yep.
Yeah.
That would be the technical term. You're
the
welcome.
thingamajig. That's all right. It goes with the doohickey.
Yeah, exactly. And so for you, Deb, and your chaos origin story, do you want to give us the snapshot?
I'll give you the snapshot because it's really complicated. So 10 years ago this month, I was diagnosed with stage 0 breast cancer. And anybody who's familiar with cancer knows that stage 0, we go, right? I didn't have an oncologist. We did the, hey, let's just kind of watch it thing. Couple months into kind of watching it, decided to pull some lymph nodes. I say pull lymph nodes. That's a technical term, right? Have surgery. And 8 of 12 lymph nodes were positive for cancer, which meant I went from stage 0 to stage 3, just poof, right? Nobody was as surprised as my doctor. And so then I get the oncologist, and so she said, we need to get very aggressive with this. I decided that I was going to do the traditional cancer treatment. Now, I always tell people, you got to do what you need, what is going to work for you. You need to pick. But I'm old school. I worked for an oncologist. I worked for the American Cancer Society. So I was going to do traditional of chemo, surgery, radiation. And so I had my first chemo. It was 8 different drugs and took 8 hours. Now, the first time, it's always going to be longer because they put the drugs in very slow to make sure that they don't kill you, because they're going to try and kill you later. And poor
Okay,
John.
wait. This is the short version?
This is the short version.
Okay.
And so I developed a reaction that happens less than 1% of the time. And at that point in time, I was the only person that they knew of that had ever survived it. My doctors were literally arguing how fast I was going to die that day.
Oof.
One doctor said, I'm not going to bother doing anything because she won't make it to midnight. And I very distinctly remember thinking, excuse me, I get to vote. And obviously my vote, took precedence. But so I went into septic shock, which is, obviously not good. In amongst all of this, they changed my diagnosis. So my technical diagnosis is stage 4, triple positive metastatic breast cancer. Stage 4 is not considered curable, right? John's like, nah. But it's 10 years ago. And, I've just been going merrily along, developed other complications along the way because must be special. And I swear, the doctors, anytime any of them open up my charts, it flashes red and does all sorts of stuff. But in amongst all of that, I happened to mention to a doctor that I had a sore on my arm that would not heal. Basal cell carcinoma, which sounds really scary and awful, but it's your basic garden variety cancer.
Skin, right?
Skin cancer. And I am a redheaded, freckly kid who grew up at over 8,000 feet and did not know what sunscreen was. So, it's kind of surprising that I didn't get this, much earlier. And then 2 years ago, I developed a third cancer. I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And so I've had 3 totally different, totally separate types of cancer. And I'm actually still in treatment. I go in every 21 days and they poke needles in me, but you just go on. And I think that's the thing with all of it. If you control what you can control, which is what's going on in your head and in your heart. And then you just kind of let everything else go. And, for some people, that means they're letting God take over. They're letting their faith take over. They're letting whatever take over. But I always just kind of thought, okay, well, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, but I get to vote in the process.
Wow.
I know. Chaos girl, right?
Wow. Just my hat's off to you. Wow. That's amazing.
That is amazing, Deb. That really is. I'm sorry to hear you're still in that. I just want to offer the audience just a very different approach. As Deb said, you have to choose. So yes, I did the chemo radiation. I also worked with energy healers. So New Zealand, as far west as New Zealand, as far east as Italy. And let me just say at one point, this very large tumor that I had as a result of working, this combination, and I also had my own formula of, what I was eating and how I was moving, stress. And I think all of that is equally important. That I was able to get rid of that tumor in 5 weeks. In 5 weeks, much to their surprise. So I just wanted to introduce another whole.
Yes. Well, and we have to do what's going to work for us. And thank heavens the traditional medical world has finally figured out that even things, nutrition, right? They never, we didn't talk about nutrition, exercise, yoga, meditation, or totally, going a different way. And I think part of mine comes from, I worked for the oncologist, and it's probably 35 years ago, delightful man. He has since passed away. But he would tell his patients, 99% of what happens next is in your head. If you think you're going to get better, you will get better. If you think you're going to die, you're going to die. Now, you might not die for years, or you might only live a certain, weeks or days, but it was how you were in that time period that was important. Were you living or were you dying?
Okay, this is
There
supposed
you
to
go.
be a
We went
perky
way
show.
down that path, right?
This is supposed to be a perky show, but levity
Mhm.
does have its place, even in the
Oh.
positivity of GoalChat, right?
Mhm, mhm.
But your point being your approach and your mindset
Right.
really will dictate
Mhm.
how you're going to get
Mhm.
through any sort of chaos.
Mhm. And my mindset for a lot of this has been humor, right?
Mhm.
You got to laugh at it. When they do that, and what is your name and date of birth? Now, I don't do this for, the new people because it totally would freak them out. But if they know me, I tell them my name is Anastasia Beaverhausen. I'm like, okay, which I think is from Will and Grace, somebody said. And sorry to the gentleman out there, I have prosthetic bosoms now, right? I chose not to do reconstructive surgery. And so they are, of course, named, and I have several pair. And so I, of course, have Lucy and Ethel, right? And Thelma and Louise. And then I ran out of 2 female partner names. So but yeah, I'm, you gotta have fun with it. I didn't mind being bald. I really didn't care. And other things, but it's how are you thinking about it that's going to get you through. And I totally understand that for many people, it is obviously very, very difficult. I joke and I laugh. It was really hard. I almost died 3 times. My husband was told she's not going to make it. And I remember thinking, but I also thought it's not my time.
Right. I'd also like to offer the audience, get support. We
Yes.
were never
Okay.
meant.
However you need it.
I just,
Mhm.
Okay, and I am with you on this, but we are way.
We went
I
way
am
down that field.
I am
Hello.
roping you in.
I am the
I am
squirrel
roping you
herder,
in.
or no,
No,
the squirrel causer.
I completely agree with Michele. When you're going through chaos, whether it's a health trauma or
Get
something
help.
else, you absolutely need
Mhm.
support. But
Yeah.
I do also want to make this functional for people dealing with chaos in their business life.
Mhm.
So I love that your
Mhm.
chaos mindset is humor.
Mhm.
John, what is your chaos mindset? What is your default?
My default, like most people, is like, oh no, what's this? But it's immediately switched to curiosity. I think that the best way to deal with the unknown is to be curious about it, because the moment you lean into it and ask questions and think about, well, what are the positive things that this thing is bringing, it puts you from a state of receptivity and concern into one of like active thinking about the thing. And therefore it reduces your anxiety almost immediately, because you're moving from a position of like, oh, I don't want to look at that thing, it's over there, to going, no, I'm going to embrace this thing, and I'm going to radically accept it for what it is, versus wishing it would go away. And I think, there's a Zen Buddhistic concept of like, the idea is that you can have pain, but suffering is optional, in the sense that if you stub your toe, that's pain. But if you start to say, why me, why this happened to me, now you're punishing yourself twice. Now you get your second pain. So I think the trick is, and it's difficult for everyone, is to deal with what is radically, and accept it, and then figure out creatively how might one go about it, which kind of goes back to, I think Michele, you were saying, like, is having a very strong sense of self-trust.
Mhm.
You've been here for a while. Your body knows it, even if you're not conscious of it, how to approach the thing. But in order to get that answer, you have to settle yourself down and be quiet enough to where the answer can present itself to you. Because if you're shouting at the wind going, why this happened, what do I do? That's just swirling all the sand in the glass jar, and until you stop swirling and spinning, you won't have any clarity. So that's the first step. And if you can trust that, it's amazing that you often have intuitively the right direction to go. You may not have the answer, but you have a general sense of like, oh, it's that way. And I think if you do that without putting too much pressure on saying, I've got to solve this right now, you'll solve it in the next hour, next day, maybe the next week. Who knows? You know, but if
And
you
it's
sit there and
said-
put a time on it, it's a problem.
Right. It's said that often a good question is more important than the
Yes.
answer. Right?
It
How
is.
many questions are we supposed to ask a day?
Not
gazillion.
supposed to. That wasn't supposed to. I was told that a child asks 237 questions
Okay.
a
Okay.
day.
Wow.
Now,
So-
I
that
talk
all?
to my cats, so that might be, I might hit that. But I love that though, because it's that curious, it's even if we're afraid of the answer, we
Mhm.
still need to ask the questions.
Deb put 237 in the chat, right? Let's aspire for us to ask more questions and have less answers.
Well, I feel like that could be a bonus goal, which is to ask 237 questions a day. So absolutely. We're going to get to goals in a second. I just need your answer on what is your chaos mindset, Michele?
I'm sorry. I think we've had it. I don't know. I'm feeling, do you need my chaos? I mean,
No,
I think, okay, I'll say it. I think I've tried, but let me do it again. I really embrace whatever I'm feeling and seeing and thinking as best I can. I mean, again, as best I can. So that's honoring and respecting me, however I'm showing up in this moment. And then in this pause that I very much offer myself, the perspective to then choose. As I said before, Debra, it really is, and because I hear the old stuff, as many of us do, because it's old, and that is the goal is not to eliminate it. The goal is just to hear it. And as one teacher says, just when we hear it, we're already awake. Many of us do things to wake up, or to become more conscious. Right? There's that goal again. And I love, many of my teachers remind me, but in this moment, the moment I even just hear, my old speaking, my old thoughts and feelings, I'm already awake because I'm no longer in the knee-jerk reaction mode, right?
Yes.
So,
Perfect. Yes.
So
Being in the moment is your chaos mindset.
yeah,
Or
and
dealing with the swirls around you.
and embracing the unknown. I think that's something, again, we run from, and I appreciate, because it's frightening. It can be, right? Because it's not in our comfort zone. And when we were talking about growing, I think we don't grow in our comfort zone. We only grow when we step outside of it. So, I'm advocating that we leap into that space. And I'm going to, since I said support earlier, and yes, find a space where we do feel safe and can trust, which is a gift, right? I'm sure as coaches, we all know to provide that, to our people, so they can then take that leap and leave their comfort zone and explore, something totally new.
Okay, so now we get to gift goals to the audience. And the first one is the bonus goal, which is to ask 237 questions a day. Start your tallies or not. Ooh, that's what I meant.
And I might just add to that, Debra, it is just to have the wonderful joy of a playful child's mind. I mean, it sounds
well, would that be your goal that you want to gift?
sure, but
Okay.
not quite worded that way.
Well, okay, then let me ask the question, and then you could do the answer, and then we can keep my format. Thank you. Okay, what goal do you want to gift to the audience? Something that they could do today, tomorrow, immediately to better embrace chaos or navigate chaos. What goal, Michele?
Okay, so the goal I would suggest is they have that curiosity, or they have that desire to celebrate. I think amid a lot of the gloom and doom, we have forgotten to celebrate, and certainly a celebration suggests gratitude. And I think all of us know the power of being grateful. So just any day, take any day, any part of a day, and can you find something to be curious about or to celebrate, right? And enjoy those moments that you've created.
Excellent. Deb, what goal are you gifting?
So my goal to gift is that we always have to advocate for ourselves, whether it's your health, your career, your personal life. Make sure that you are advocating for yourself and that the decisions that are being made are yours.
Oh, that's so well. I'm sure you learned this from all of your trials and
I'm not going to
tribulations.
die today.
Sorry, wrong. But you're right. It doesn't, in any and every situation, you're going to be your best advocate, but sometimes you need to remember that you do have that power.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Okay, John, what goal are you gifting?
Mine is probably the most prosaic, but I think there's two things that I do daily that are helpful. One is meditate, whatever meditation practice you can do. And the other one is work out, move your body. It can even just be going for a walk around the block. But I find that if I do those two things with some regularity, a lot of other things tend to fall into place.
Well, especially those of us who are in work from home mode, I think it can't be underscored enough that you cannot sit and stare at a computer all day and expect to feel good and invigorated.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like there's you're supposed to look away every 20 minutes or there's some sort of number attached to it. But I'll be like, at the end of the day, I'll sometimes go, how long has it been since I left the house? Okay, I have to go take a walk. But remembering it so it's not, so you don't have to think back to how many days it's been.
Right.
Whereas part of your routine is, oh, it's the end of the day. I've been in front of the computer all day. It's time to take a walk.
Fresh air, sunshine.
Yes.
Some of the best vitamins we can get.
And don't forget the hat and the sunscreen.
I know.
Well, friends, this has been quite the interesting journey navigating chaos, which I appreciate.
Chaotic. What can we say?
Well, but this is the joy and the beauty of GoalChat. I bring together a different panel every week, and I could have this conversation with dozens of different people, mix and match, and watch all the different directions. But I feel like the message we get is the one that we need right now. And I guess we're all feeling very existential, and people need to realize that the chaos may be purposeful. And when you embrace it and your gifts and ask the questions and do self-care and advocate for yourself and all of the things, then you do get to come out the other side. Friends, where can people learn more about each of you? John?
Well, you can find me at john-couch.com and on Instagram as well. Probably Shadow and Sun Art is the easiest way to find me on Instagram. And on LinkedIn, you can find me there. It's John S. Couch with an S, because there's another John Couch at Apple, surprisingly, who started with Steve Jobs back in the day, and I often get, emails for him. And so
Get his money, get some paychecks.
I wish.
Okay. And Deb, where can people learn more about you?
Oh, there's all sorts of places. The first is the podcast, thebusinesspowerhour.com. My attorneys would always be happy that I say it that way because that's how it's trademarked. But you can just search for me on Google. I believe there are only 3 Deb Kriers in the whole world. I'm the only one with this crazy red hair. And with over 1,000 podcasts, I'm going to come up pretty high on the list of Google. So find me there, find me on LinkedIn. And tryingnottoDie.live is the website for our cancer initiative to help anyone who's dealing with cancer.
Love that. Thank you. And Michele, where can people learn more about you?
The easiest, I'll just give 2. LinkedIn. I think there's only one, Michele with 1 L, Risa, my last name. So please connect with me there. And the other is my website, which is collaborativesolutions.global. I think you have that as well. But if that can't be remembered, my name at LinkedIn would be perfect. Looks like Deborah froze.
Oh no, there she's back.
I am a hardlined, and this is the second time this happened today. So I will try again. I am at the Deb Method everywhere. If you go to thedebmethod.com/blog, you will get the recap, the goals, and everybody's links both to their website and to their LinkedIn, because always the best place of first connection. And I am live every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific at Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And you can also subscribe to GoalChat and also my other show, Taste Buds with Deb, on your favorite podcast platform. And you can actually subscribe to the Deb Method, YouTube at the Deb Method, and watch all the live and pre-recorded streams and all of the chats. And if you need a little extra motivation towards your goals, you can grab a copy of your goal guide and or 52 secrets for goal setting and goal getting at your favorite place to buy books. Oh, I feel like enlightened. Don't you all feel enlightened from chatting today? I know it's feeling like this. What final thought do you want to leave people with today? And let's start with you, Michele. Oh,
That's fine. I just needed to put on a light. That's all I did.
awesome. Michele, what final thought do you want to leave people with today?
Trust, right? I mean, I know we may always look for things outside ourselves. And I think when we can begin to trust ourselves, that becomes a great source of a foundation from which, we can travel far and enjoy our lives. And so again, it's about learning how to take responsibility for this great opportunity we have called life, and just keep really just following our heart and learning. I love learning. I think we're all life learners, at least that's how I sense it. So enjoying this wonderful journey that we're on. So thank you. Debra, this was just lovely. So thank you. It was a pleasure being with the two of you as well. I've not been with two other people before. I've been with one other, and you did masterfully. So bravo to you, Debra.
Well, thank you. Deb,
Well, I echo
final
the
thought?
thanks. Yes, this has been so much fun. And I hope people, were loving what they were hearing. What I would say is give yourself grace. Have the grace to feel what you are feeling. It's not wrong, whatever it is. If it's fear, if it's anger, if it's grief, if it's happy, that's okay. But give yourself the grace to feel it.
I love that you said that happy is a good emotion. If you're feeling good, embrace that as well.
Right. Especially when things are chaotic, right? Because you're supposed to go, ooh, no, it can be happy. It's okay.
Love that. Thank you. And John, final thought to you.
Be kind. Be kind to yourself and be kind to everyone around you, because life is challenging and everybody's going through their own private issues and difficulties. And so probably the easiest thing I think to implement is to be kind.
Well, I have to call back to when I met Sage in line at jury duty. I have this game I play where I say turn to a page, and the page Sage turned to was be prepared and be kind.
Oh.
Which is something you possibly, I think it's a cool story, but I can't imagine that you would have heard it. So the fact that you came up with the kind after our kindness conversation, the universe is watching us. I think that's the other final thought. We may think we have control. We probably don't. But when you trust, when you are present, when you are kind, then whereas you cannot control the chaos, you can live within it and live your best life.
Mhm.
So thank you again, John,
Thank
Deb, and
you.
Michele for joining me. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
tuning in. Again, you can watch us live every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific, or the replay, or subscribe to GoalChat on Marketing Podcast Network. Okay, embrace chaos, live your life, be good. We know, especially that last part, you can do it.